Okay, so today we will be talking about biological diversity, niches, and we're going to start by getting out a piece of paper or pencil or any kind of electronic device that you may have, and I would like you to write down what you believe the important characteristics of a thriving habitat would be. Like, what would that look like? Say, for example, in the Alberta Rockies, maybe. Something you may have seen on vacation. And I'm going to give you a couple minutes to think about that. Keep in mind, it doesn't have to include just mammals. It can include plants, fauna, flora. You all learned those terms before, I hope, so shouldn't be news. Okay, anybody want to share any of the characteristics that they have thought of? Yes.
Lots of plants.
Yes, that's a good one. What kinds of plants?
Like plants that are food.
Sure, so maybe lichen, moss, grasses, these kind of things. Things you'd find in primary succession, perhaps? All remember primary succession from grade 7? Yes? No? Hopefully? No? Yes.
I was just going to say like diversity of plants, so there might be lots of having lots of types.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely I would expect to see that, yeah?
I was going to say diversity, but just in general, I think that like the number of species and like food animals and plants, and like the more diversity you have in an ecosystem, the more successful it is.
For sure, yeah, diversity in everything, I would anticipate, yes, because they have to live through different environmental changes, these kind of things.
I think abundance of water, either like free flowing or trapped within the environment and the plants or the animals.
Yeah, for sure. Water is really important for us. It makes up like 90% of what we need, right? So it's very important for plants, obviously, and animals, the same thing. So yeah, that's really good work. A niche, like I mentioned before, I'm not sure if you guys know what this term means. It's the position or function of an organism in a community of plants or animals. A community, this is a little bit of a complicated word. Can anybody think of what this might mean?
A collective group, so it's similar and different, all in the same area at the same time.
For sure, yeah. Yeah, so the definition that I get is, yeah, an interacting population of various kinds of individuals. So that speaks to what you guys were saying over here, that it's diversity with mammals, plants, all of these kind of things. So interaction between not just each animal, which is kind of what we think of when we think of diversity more so, but also plants and animals. Yeah, so another kind of stepping stone to this is what a population is. So a population kind of is one type of animal or plant. What are some examples of communities that anybody can think of in Alberta? Or populations, or either or.
Well, I mean, the Rocky Mountains have a specific environment and form a specific community for for plants, animals.
Yeah,
that
for sure.
typically won't be found elsewhere.
Yeah, so keeping in mind what our definition of community is, I think maybe I'm looking for, it's a really good idea, a little bit of a more smaller, more narrow definition maybe, of a more specific area. So, for example, if I were a beaver, can anybody tell me what my niche may be? If I were a beaver, keep in mind where beavers live. Yes.
River?
River, yep, that's good.
Any place where there's sufficiently deep water and lots of woods around.
Yeah.
Now, the deep water can either be beaver generated or naturally occurring.
Interesting. Beaver generated in terms of them digging? Is that?
They build a dam.
Yeah.
To raise the water level so it'll actually not freeze in winter.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, beavers are really important. They're what are referred to as keystone species. So essentially, they need to be there first, and they kind of make environments for other animals, plants, and this kind of thing, insects. Insects are really important too. We don't really talk about them because they're not as cute or fuzzy, and people are scared of them, but they're actually very important, and beavers definitely help with that. Also, another thing is pioneer species. We're talking about like lice or lichen, moss, all we learned in grade 7 science, hopefully grade 8 science. What would be some of the factors that we've kind of gotten to this? They contribute to like successful communities. So we've talked about diversity. Are there any other thoughts on what would make a successful community?
Lots of like food sources
Yeah, for sure.
are easily available.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, definitely a good. So maybe a good environment. Something like that.
Healthy amount of competition between species.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So competition is tricky. We all remember competition, or does anybody need that clarified? It's just essentially competition for species, for resources between species and among species, intra-specific and interspecific. So intra within species, and then inter within all kinds of other species. So another misconception that generally comes from this is that adaptations, which kind of come from competition, can be inherited from mother to child or father to child. This is not true. Adaptations are something that you learn, or something that animals or plants get over time. So it can't be inherited. So that's something to keep in mind. So I'm going to get you guys to get into pairs and to discuss. Actually, well, no, I guess we kind of already did that. So actually in groups. I'm going to give you this handout, and I'm going to give you a list of animals, and you're going to tell me which habitat they would be in. They would be found in. So, or if they don't fit into these, that's fine too. You can just state which one you think they fit into. Don't worry about the animal ones in the bottom here. Unless you really want to use them. Sorry. And if you don't want to draw them, you can just write down what they're called in the habitat where they belong.
What are you drawing?
These are the list of animals that you're choosing from, and just state which section, which habitat you think they're likely to be found in.
Yeah.
No. Nope.
This?
Also, feel free to come up with other things that would live in those environments, if you want to. No pressure.
Oh my god.
Not drawn. No, it's a kid. It's a moose hard part. It's a hard part.
Your camel.
No, my moose. Great, great acres.
That'll give you flags from the
Oh.
bottom of it too.
Yeah.
And then if it comes right to the like I might probably
Dromedary.
I just talked about
So 3 or 3.
doesn't help that there's so smart.
That's good.
And
Like,
anybody having any questions, or we're all pretty confident in our answers?
I'll be embarked on the stuff for this, right?
Yes, you will be marked on the drawings and the quality of the drawings. Just kidding. Don't freak out. Don't panic. Now's the time to buddy up with a really artistic person, get them to redraw what you just did.
My kangaroo's gonna have claws.
No dinosaur-looking
Thanks.
kangaroos. Give you 10 more seconds. Yeah.
Big old piece.
Oh my. I actually have to do this because that's actually not as bad as I expected it to be. The beaver is really good. It kind of looks like a platypus though.
Oh man!
Like a little bit.
Do you know platypuses can kill you?
It's platypeeper.
Platypus.
Yes, it looks like a platypus. That's true. Okay. So, does anybody want to share which animals they think, which mammals, pardon me, they think would be in which habitat?
Did you say which mammals?
Or animals?
Okay.
Just the list
'Cause
of theirs now.
Yeah, sorry. Yes. I should clarify, yes. You can do whatever you want, because I did say you were able to pick whichever. I just wanted to focus on these specific ones because they're cute and fuzzy. Yes, go ahead.
Camels live in the desert.
That is very true. That is very good. Yes. Okay, so in a desert habitat, what would they be likely to need to survive?
Water.
Water, yes. And is that hard to come by in the desert?
It is.
Yes. What do they likely eat?
Good question.
Would they be omnivores, carnivores, or herbivores? Or none of the above?
Like a herbivore, so they get water.
I think that that's most likely the case, because what is really available in the desert? Not a whole lot. Yeah, I don't know if they actually eat scorpions. I very much doubt it, because they probably would die, and that sounds unpleasant. So anybody else? Anybody else wants to? Who wants to venture what a caribou? Which one would they fit into either of these? I know these are kind of generalized, so I think it's forest and desert. So yes.
Live in a forest or a winter desert.
A winter desert.
Because the tundra is considered a desert.
Somebody's been doing their homework. Look at
Yeah,
that.
just what-
Somebody's smarty pants.
What defines a desert is the amount of precipitation.
Absolutely. So there you go. Something I had not thought of. Very good. And what would a caribou likely eat?
Greens.
Grains.
Plants, or lichen, which isn't a plant.
What about
Yeah.
bark?
So, pardon?
Bark?
Bark?
Don't caribous eat
Probably.
leaves and they-
I would say-
They're a browsing animal.
Yeah,
Yes,
no, I
the
would say-
woodland caribou in Manitoba, they do browse. Same with the herds in Jasper.
What's the difference between browsing and grazing?
One is twigs and one is grass.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Okay. So. So we have lots of caribou in Alberta, yes? True or false?
False.
False. Why is that false?
There's only like 3 herds in the Jasper area, isn't there?
Yes, because of what factor? Mostly, what main factor?
Poaching?
Poaching? Yeah, I would say so. So human activity.
Human activity, loss
Yeah.
of habitat.
Absolutely. So that's something.
Caribous are awful at anything that change.
Yeah.
Like, if you, caribous get stressed, they die.
Yeah. Well, that's just unfortunate. But yes, I mean, definitely something to do with human interaction, maybe, yeah, climate change, any kind of change in their environment, yes. How about wolves? Kind of touched on this with the same as caribou. Probably you're likely to find them in a similar place, right? Has anybody seen a wolf?
Yes.
Yeah? Yeah, it's cool, right? Yeah. What would they likely eat?
Other wolves?
Probably
Typically-
not.
Typically rodents.
Rodents. Interesting. Yeah.
As the first course of, but when they can catch something bigger, they won't hesitate.
Yep.
They don't scavenge.
Yeah, I would say that's true. So it's just like us, right? We would probably not take on something larger than us to eat, at first anyway, if we can avoid it, because it's scary, and we probably will die. So important things. Wolves are carnivores, yes?
Omnivores.
Are omnivores, yeah, okay. Can eat both?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, good.
Well,
And kangaroos?
they'll eat higher energy forms of plant matter.
Yeah. They
So
also eat
we-
grass. But that's more of
That's cleaning out the digestive thing.
Yeah, so for our purposes, we're going to stick with the basic, more so definition of these animals
a.
and things. So I'm going to go with, for the purposes of testing, we're going to say carnivore.
Okay.
So great that I
Okay.
know
And kangaroos, which one?
Desert.
Desert? Yeah, okay.
Um,
Probably not.
No, they're usually in the plains in Australia, but not so much the desert,
I had the exact same thought.
because they have an extremely high water quantity that they require.
Hmm. Which is something they wouldn't be likely to find too much in the desert, absolutely. And then beavers we've already touched on, that they are more likely to be near water, lots of water, really important species to know about. And I'm going to pass it along to Dana.
So what you kind of touched on this a little bit between camels and caribous. What are some similarities between the two animals?
They're both mammals.
Okay. What else?
Herbivores.
Sure. What else? Are there differences too?
They both have properties of retaining water, and they both can regulate the temperatures to some degree.
Okay.
Are they both ruminants?
For me,
Are they both ruminants?
I don't.
They have like a cow, they have multiple stomachs.
I would have to Google that. So what I'm trying to get at here is that could a caribou survive in the desert? Why?
I don't know why, I'm just assuming.
But
Then-
why? Because you don't see them? Or because you just think so?
I'm just so.
Anybody else want to venture a guess?
I'm going to say they wouldn't because I haven't seen a picture of a caribou in the desert, but I don't know why.
So, Jessica kind of talked about niches, right? And niches are specific to a particular environment. So it's also kind of helpful to maybe think of a niche as an organism's job in a particular environment. So think about it as like a farmer. So if a farmer in our society just decides one day, like, I'm not going to be a farmer anymore, he won't be able to put food on his table for him and his family, so they'll probably die. But it's also going to affect all the other members of that community. So that's why the caribou can't live in the desert, right? He's made for a particular environment. Although they're both herbivores, they both live in desert areas. Why do you think that is, or what term do you think that's called? Adaptation. Does anybody know? Does anybody know what that? Does anybody know what an adaptation is? No.
It's evolution.
Evolution? Pretty much, yeah. So without being able to adapt to a particular environment, these animals wouldn't be able to survive. So that's where we kind of come into what's called a broad niche. So you know what niche means. Since I put the word broad beside it, what do you think that means?
It's all off of
It's-
Range.
It's a generalization of a large area, of a large variety of plants and animals, as opposed to very specific locales.
Awesome, that's great definition, Mark. Okay, so. Are you guys taking notes? So this would be our caribou and camel, right? They live in an environment where they kind of have to scavenge and survive off of very minimal. So if there's not enough of a particular plant, they'll just go and find a similar kind of plant to feed off of just to gain that energy. You guys kind of talked about that with the wolf, right? If there's not enough rodents for it to feed off of, it'll just find something else that's high in energy to eat up. Okay. So these types of animals are called generalists. What other animals can you think of that are generalists?
Bears.
Okay, someone else was gonna say something.
ants.
Sorry?
Ants.
Ants? Why ants?
Because they live pretty much every ecosystem.
Yeah.
Other than Arctic, obviously, ecosystems. It's not ironic. Dandelions.
Dandelions.
They're all over the place.
Okay, so what about, what's the kind of opposite of that? So, let's think of one. Can you think of an animal that if it doesn't get an exact specific diet, it'll just die?
Koala?
A panda. Okay. What'll happen if there is no, for a panda, if there's no bamboo,
Probably style.
and it would die, right? Which is so sad. So that's what's called a narrow niche. Oh. Thank you. Do I need to move you places? Okay, so narrow niche.
Classroom management. Allow class to get wildly out of control.
I feel like my computer's still recording because there's a green light, but the screen's off.
So a narrow niche are organisms that need to have a very specific environmental conditions to survive, which we talked about the panda and the koala. So since for a broad niche, the species are identified as generalists, what might be the type of organism that would live in a narrow niche?
Specialists.
So I heard it.
Specialists.
Yes. Gold star. So these organisms can thrive only in very narrow range of environmental conditions, and they have a very limited diet. Are any of you still taking notes? Are we done? Can we move on? No? Do you have a question?
Yeah, you use the panda as a part of generalist?
No, specialist.
Oh.
Specialist. Sorry. Any other questions? Clarification? No? Good? Okay, we're moving on. Oh, as environmental conditions change, like the hot topic right now is global warming, what do you think will happen to these specialist species?
Like the environments are getting really big.
Will they get pushed farther north until they can't fit their niche anymore?
That's one possibility, but think of something also like in an ocean, right? Like if, or a lake, if the water changes to a different temperature and let's say they can't move any further down in that lake, what will happen? They'll just die.
The other side of it is some specialists may be coming into their own with how the climate is changing.
Mm-hmm.
Nematodes, for example.
sure. That's part of adaptation, right? So, or they've adapted some particular trait that makes them very successful in the new environment. So, what happens with global warming is also that it affects resources, right? So it's not just affecting the animals and how they're living, it also, or their death or whatever, it also affects food, water, their homes, and numerous other things. So let's make a table, and you're gonna help me construct it. So with human interaction, or simply just global warming is kind of attributed to human intervention. But how does this affect the specialist versus the generalist? So we know already that a specialist lives in a narrow niche. And a generalist lives within a broad niche. Do you guys have any ideas? You kind of brought up one, Ryan, right? You said the environments that they inhabit are going to change. So for a specialist, the environments that they inhabit, is there going to be more or less of them? Yeah, fewer, right? Fewer. What about a generalist who's able to kind of feed on multiple different resources, live off very little?
There will still be fewer and smaller habitats, but be more able to use the necessary.
So they'll be able, since they're already able to use a variety of different kind of areas, they'll probably do okay. Less fewer still?
Yeah, because
No, but not fewer, less.
So basically just less in general, but more than specialists. Okay, so less. What about their ability to adapt? Are specialists readily able to adapt?
No.
No. That doesn't mean it's impossible for them to adapt. It just means it's less likely for them to be able to adapt to the new environment. So no. What about a generalist? Yeah? Yeah, for sure. So, yes.
I wonder if the generalist would be more prone to suffering from competition. Because, you know what I mean? Like if the generalists compete on this and this and that, and it means their body kind of works with all those things, whereas like a specialist works with something specific. So if the generalist lost 2 of their 3 and they're only up to 1, and there's another specialist species there, and they're more specialist.
So do you feel that, just let me clarify what you're saying. So are you saying that a specialist or a generalist would be more susceptible to competition with other species?
I think that what he's saying is that within their niche, a specialist will be better able to control that niche.
Yeah.
The generalist.
And if the environment changes and the generalist is forced down to one of their 5 niches, whatever, right, that they're covering, then they'll be outcompeted by the specialist with that specific niche. Because they don't have anything to fall back on.
It's actually kind of the opposite. So think of it as somebody brought up a dandelion earlier, right, as a generalist. So when a dandelion invades your lawn, what happens to the grass, who is a specialist? Right. So the specialist is more susceptible to competition, more susceptible. But I think what you're trying to also say is that generalists, that doesn't mean that they're not, they'll still undergo competition as well, right? Like they're not immune to that. So less susceptible, but still possible. So you brought up competition, and I don't know if you've ever heard the scientific term of definition, but I thought that we could create a definition together because I'm sure most of you have played on sports teams and stuff. So can someone help me make up this definition? Or give me characteristics of it. Take a minute and think about it with your partner beside you.
What, competition?
Competition. Competition.
Sometimes it's like a different, it's using whatever strength.
It doesn't have to be direct. The fight is
Using whatever.
But we don't use the word.
Whatever.
Okay, 10 more seconds. Wrap up your discussions. So what are some characteristics of competition?
We want the same thing.
One. Want the same resources.
Sure.
Limited.
It's no resources. That's no resource.
don't want the other one to have that reason.
So you want to win. You want to beat them. Okay.
I want them to lose.
You want want them to lose. I heard Alexander say that it can be within species. So what's something within a species that would cause them to compete? Mates, dominance, right. Okay, so we'll just kind of skip this. So you guys kind of get what competition is, right? So what happens when there's limited resources and there's competition? Winners and losers. What happens if you lose?
Die or you don't reproduce.
So that's part of it, right? So like you lose out on resources, which includes mates, so you're unable to reproduce and pass off your genetic material, which inevitably leads to extinction, which is what Chelsea's going to talk to you about.
So seamless.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Okay, so, what would occur if a species is outcompeted? Yes,
Extinction.
and that would probably be in a special niche, a narrow niche, or a broad niche.
But narrow.
And what would happen if an animal was to die and it was in a broad niche?
No biological control to go on for.
Doing a great time.
Something will take it over.
Yeah,
Take its job.
Take its job? So, if an animal dies in a ring in a part of the territory, but it doesn't die completely, it's called extirpation. So what are some examples of how an animal can become extinct or extirpated?
Meteors.
Meteors? Dinosaurs?
Poaching.
Poaching? These are
Nuclear fallout. Chernobyl, man, it was great.
So yes, we have different threats which cause extirpation and extinction. And these are global changes, so what are some types of global changes that are occurring these days?
Like, the earth is heating up.
You have to believe in how they work.
You seem pretty smart. Let's discuss this.
Shots fired. Science.
For habitat loss, what are some things that
Farming.
farming?
Human growth.
Oral degradation.
What about like phosphates in water? I mean,
Oh, that's basic.
I said like phosphates in water.
That could still be a habitat loss, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's a habitat loss for some.
And an increase for others.
Oh, that's
Brown gobies.
What?
Back to ridiculous. Bodies. Many plants here in Alberta. Do you know that worms in Alberta, like earthworm, are an invasive species? That's one too. I think in southern Alberta, there's one species of worm before. Really? Yeah.
And what are some examples of overharvesting?
Bison. Turn of the century. Buffalo.
So hunting,
The wolf population in the United States before 1992.
It's been punished from the stop that time. Big problem, yes.
Oh, human population increases. But overharvesting.
and but it typically happens with animals that have a smaller or more special niche, and they have, if they're larger, they have a lower reproductive rate, and they can't accommodate for extraction.
What about cod? Oh, I guess it's all in the hunting.
Yeah, it's just a fishing.
So, I have a little activity here.
Hallmark
Can we look at these cards?
So you can open it up. So, in those charts, I have some animals. Some of them are extinct and some of them have been extirpated. And use some logic and reasoning, which we've just covered here, to decide what is a likely cause and what is your explanation. Is it extinct, extirpated? Is it overharvested, invasive species? Pardon me? Yeah, go ahead. You can write on it.
Well, we can also put possible.
I don't know. I'm not sure what they're having back on. I haven't seen
Oh, I see.
invasive species and habitat.
Is the gray whale?
It's around. Which could be, yeah, I mean, the white whale is almost perfect extinction, the gray whale, very different.
There's 9 minutes.
Or is nothing else that's
Yeah.
two different wolves of that?
Yeah, Bernard's got the gray whale.
Bernardsville, live on the Vancouver Island area.
New wolf? It's called chupacabra.
All the groups. So, after applying some of this, what are some modern day concerns that are happening now in the news that are quite, they're making headlines?
The western black rhinoceros? Is that what it was? I don't know, it's one of the things that we have.
Oh, that's the one I was thinking of. That guy got paid. He paid like $280,000 to shoot.
350,000 on the last white rhino.
Was it white? Okay. I'm pretty sure. I think it was a black rhino.
That is a bug.
I think that urban development is like an issue, like we're making it more in our space, so it's just like, how much is it on
There's, if you set them distinct from Hawaii because of the introduction of the American Navy and invasive species.
Also, the African
Man, that's the scariest. That is literally my nightmare.
That is why I'm worried about global warming. It's only because of that one. It's moving its way up to like the point of
I think that farming and agriculture as well, with especially like with animals and stuff, people all different like eating and going vegan and vegetarian, so like there's lots of stuff that we can look at that.
So people being more proactive and just considering where and how things are coming to us. I've had a news article we can pass along. So what type of views, has everyone finished reading the article? Okay. 30 more seconds?
Oh no, I read every third word.
Okay. What type of niche? What type of niche is this yellow face goose getting into? Look back at the notes.
Narrow. Close to agree with me.
I'll go with narrow.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because it says that it gets nectar from the native species there, but also from other plants. So, I think that it has a chance of its fertility, but the commercialized bees are more popular. How do bees affect biological diversity?
It's got pollen.
The pollen? Pollen for plants.
For, it says yellow-faced bees pollinate some flies and maybe plant species. So they can help with that.
The web of life, as they phrased it, would collapse because the animals there wouldn't have habitat. What are some, it says habitat loss as a factor, but what are some specific habitat losses that they could be suffering from?
Forest fires.
Forest fires?
And development.
Development? What do we put on our plants to keep away the bugs we don't like? What is something that we could do to help bees in our neighborhood, in our community, in Alberta?
Don't use pesticides.
Don't use pesticides?
Build like flowering boxes.
Establish a warm environment for them to live in.
And before you go, I'd like to put you guys to fill out the exit slips. Speculate what our society would be like without bees in 1 year, 2 years. Draw a picture, say a diary of a day in the life without bees. Like, what should I answer? Something to give you answers?
Are we gonna go over the answers for each of these?
We could, I have cheat sheets for your personal interest. I didn't.
Okay.